Okay, so I had been paying attention to the Vicky White and Casey White situation. Um, Hell, my coworker just found out about it last night when I told her. So, in case you don't know, Vicky White was an exemplary employee with the Lauderdale County uh, Jail. She was a corrections officer. Actually, she was like second in command. I think she was like the assistant sheriff or director of facility, the jail facility. Worked there for 27 years. She was busy in the month of April. She had sold her home, which was worth around $240,000. She sold it for $95,000. She bought a car, old 2007 Ford um, vehicle. What else she did? She put in her retirement papers on April 29th after 27 years working with this department. Her superiors, her co-workers, some of her subordinates, pretty much everybody had rave reviews about her retirement papers. She then uh, proceeded to execute one of her functions in her role as assistant correction officer or whatever. She was in charge of doing transport. So, she tells her co-workers, her superiors, that she's going to transport a one Casey White, who is a 6'9" tall dude, doing 75 years, for a number of crimes, which one of them out of these 75 years he was doing, none of them had to do with murder. And he was transferred to the county jail because he confessed to this particular murder that he had to go back and forth to court for, and perhaps begin a trial, whatever the case may be. So that's why he was at the Lauderdale County Jail. So on April 29th, a couple hours perhaps after she submitted her retirement papers, she says she has to take this one Casey White over to the courthouse, which is a few blocks away, because he needs a mental health evaluation. There's video of the prisoner walking behind this correctional officer of 27 years. He's handcuffed in the front. He is walking behind her. Big no-nos. They get into the police car. And it wasn't until 6 hours later that the jail noticed that in the police car, Vicky and the inmate, they drive to some parking lot, jump into the car she bought a few weeks prior, and they are gone, disappeared. This correctional officer of 27 years, mind you, who had sold her home weeks prior. So she had $95,000 cash. She had her service weapon, which would be not as a manhunt for both of them. Initially, everybody at the jail, nobody could believe that, she did this willingly, sure. But, as they looked into the things that she had done, it became Casey White, Vicky White. Happen to have the same last name. They say no relationship. No relation, not cousins or whatever. That's what they say. They could be first cousins. Who knows? It wouldn't be unheard of in Alabama. And so, um, there's a manhunt. They had been going since co-workers, everybody, superiors, district attorneys, the constituents that she worked with, everybody's in denial. Everyone's in disbelief. They do a little bit more investigating and they just say that the two had a special relationship over the past 2 years. Now, had it been Vicky Black and Casey Black, they would have all but said that they two been fucking, right? But no, they just had a special relationship, air quotes. I had been discussing this case over the past several days with one of my good friends when Vicky was going to kill herself. I said they both might commit suicide, but most likely he ain't going to die. Most likely she going to shoot herself in the head. But my friend couldn't see it that way. And it just made complete sense to me because here is a woman, not a blemish on her record. She puts in her retirement papers. The fact that she sold a $240,000 house for $95,000 cash, and if she were to crap out, she was going to shoot herself in the head. If he's 6'9", what else on him could be 6'9"? You know what I mean? And I think she just became enamored with that. She's a 56-year-old woman. He's a 38-year-old man. And a couple of days prior to them escaping, there's video of her going into a men's store and buying men's clothes. So she bought him some clothes. And then she went to an adult toy store. Honey. Well, needless to say, it took about 10 or 11 days. They were found in, well, first the 2007 Ford that they bought conked out on them in Tennessee. They were able to buy a F-150 pickup truck for $6,000. You know, in the South, somebody's house in their yard, in their driveway, whatever. So it was one of those deals. And she had fake ID, so they got the F-150 or whatever. And then they drove to Indiana where they were able to buy a Cadillac. They've been hiding out in this hotel in Evansville, Indiana. And then it was yesterday morning or the day before, my days running, police chase. The police car T-boned the Cadillac. Casey White was driving. The car tumbled over in a ditch. And Vicky shot herself in the head. Took her to the hospital. They said she was in grave condition and she really didn't make it through the night. She's deceased. They arrested Casey White. He is now back in his Alabama jail. And that's that. So Vic, and like I said, she was in it to win it. And this was the biggest gamble of her life. Either she was going to live happily ever after with that 6'9" nigga, or she was going to die. It was all or nothing. And nobody could understand what would possess someone who lived a decent life, so it seems, for 56 years, an exemplary career as a correction officer. What would make someone just throw all that away for a criminal, a murderer? Love? Or was it the dick? You know, these prison guys are highly manipulative. And honey, they can kick some stuff to you that'll make you feel like you the only sexy woman in the world. And that's because they have nothing but time on their hands to think of the most fly shit to say to a woman. You know? And It's scary. It's really scary. And I'm sure at some point while he was incarcerated, they were intimate and he put it on her. And she just had to have it for herself, so she thought. Because I can guarantee you, if they would have gotten away with this and just got real comfortable, he would have looked at that old bitch with his freedom. There was no living happily ever after, whether they got away scot free for good or not. And yeah, let me tell you something. Well, actions speak louder than words. He didn't shed a tear that she's dead. Matter of fact, his statement was, I want to go home. And home is the Alabama prison or the jail. You know. And so I could I could see, honestly, and I'll be very candid with you. And this video ain't gonna stay up, I promise you it's not. After I tell you this. I can see how she got hooked on the D. I can see how that can happen with anybody. And in so many words, I can tell you that I had an experience one night. I don't want to get graphic. Use your imagination. It was earth shattering. I think the earth moved off its axis a bit. And when it was over, I remember laying there thinking, oh my God. Oh my God. What the fuck was that? He laying right there. Had his eyes closed. And I was just looking. And I said, this can't be. It just can't because I'll be giving this nigga the deed to my house, the title to my car, money out the bank. And he looked over at me, and the look that he had was like, yeah, I got this. Yeah, this is mine. It was a very smug, confident look. Madam Whip-Ass didn't like that. He's like, so I rocked your world, huh? You know what I said? So I bet you can't do that again. And he did. After that, smoked a cigarette. He laying in the bed. I said, "You got to go." Yo, what's up? Why are you tripping? You got to go, and you got to go now. Go. So I started throwing his pants and the shirt at him. Come on, get your socks on. Here your shoes. Come on. And he got dressed and he was like, what? At first he was chuckling and, he's like, you bug? No, I'm not bugging, nigga. Get out, 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 out. Because I put him out. Contacted me on Facebook. I blocked him. I never again. And I'm thankful for the experience. And I tell you, it was wonderful. But I thank God I was strong enough to know that was a once in a lifetime thing for me. I don't want it ever again. That shit was ridiculous. That shit was ridiculous. Ridiculous. You list. So if I was Vicky Black and that nigga was Casey Black, and I didn't have the wherewithal to have the self-control, I'd sold my house for $3,000. Story would have ended, the capture would have ended because they would have shot both of us to the cop. But the moral of this and what you can handle and know how far you can go. And if the distance that you can go is not going in a good direction, then pull back because you don't need that shit in your life. You really don't. Nice guy. But he was just too dangerous for my liking. Too dangerous. So I understand the concept of digmatism. And the last thing, ladies, you want to be is digmatized because it makes you stupid. Ask Vicky White. Well, you can't ask her, but yeah, that's what happened with Tricky Vicky. She not only killed herself because, the friends, her family, there was no way she could look at anybody. There was no way after being an exemplary correction officer and then end up on the other side of the bars. There was no way she would be able to finish out the rest of her life, or even if they gave answer for her. All because of Dick. So they've been interrogating Casey. What is it about Casey White, about Casey White's dick that made that bitch lose her fucking mind like that? That shit must have explored parts unknown. Poor Vicky. So there's good dick and there's dick that's way too good. That shit that's way enjoy it while it's happening, but get up with your good sense and never get it again. You don't need it again. You don't need that. It's dangerous. It's lethal. You will orgasm your brain cells out of your coochie. That's what happened to Vicky. Ask her. Well, if she could tell you. So, with that being said, never abandon your good judgment, your good sense. No matter what, always keep that near and dear to you. Because without those two things, besides good health, you're screwed. Peace.